Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Droga 52, and I'm Axel. This is my partner Eli,
Hello.
and today we're going to be discussing, a movie that I, for the most part, was looking forward to, hoping it was going to be good, but most of the time I turned out to be wrong, and I'm really disappointed.
Well, I don't think you were wrong. Your hopes and expectations were just like
Yeah, I was rooting for it.
It was disappointing. Like you wanted it to be good.
Yeah,
Like any kind of film you go see, you hope for the very least it's watchable.
Yeah.
In one way or another. Not really.
Yeah, and that movie we're talking about is The Crow, 2024. It is a reboot of the comic book series, and not a remake of the 1994 movie. But this movie Eli didn't watch any trailer for it.
Yeah, because I love the original film. I do have some of the comics. I have yet to sit down and read them, but I do have some of the comics.
Fake fan.
No, but I love the original film. It's not necessarily a 100% great film. There is a lot that could improve on the original, but I enjoy it and I love what it does do, right? So I also preface that I have a bad history. I have a weird pattern of often when I see trailers of films I really want to go see, more often than not, it becomes a disappointment. There have been many films that I've gone seeing.
That's why he's not watching any trailers for Beetlejuice, or Joker 2.
No, Joker 2, I just am not 100% interested in. That's why I'm not like looking forward to that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that's why I avoided as much as possible. I did see a few things like pictures they had released for costumes and that sort of thing, and like maybe one or two reviews here and there. But overall, I would say I avoided as much as I could before going to see the film. Some might say that's a good thing. Others would say that was a really bad thing. In this case, I would have to say, look, I don't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. But overall, I think I went in untainted as much as possible. Like, yes. Nice clean slate, unlike other people who had seen other things and already was like, oh my God, it's going to be so bad. I will say, though, that I was aware that this was going to come. Because it has been like through production and stuff for a very long time. Yeah. It's been passed around. Like at one point, Jason Momoa was meant to play Eric Draven, but it's been many years since those original sort of test shots, if you will, were released. So I will say I didn't have extremely high expectations because I knew of the history for like how this film led up to. But I was like, I just want a watchable film.
Yeah.
Alas, I did not get a watchable film. It was an achievement. It was an achievement.
We got quite the opposite. So we're going to talk about stuff we like first. So what do you want to say that you liked?
Well, actually, I will say, just as an experience watching it, I think is a better point to start. I think its watchability very low. Because we went to see it on my birthday, if my mum hadn't like given the tickets as a present, I probably would have walked out. So it is like it's an hour and 51 minutes.
Yeah, I even texted you asking, can we walk out of this show?
It was an hour and 50 minutes. So roughly you're looking at a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
That is including credits, but overall 2-hour film, right? I think we got up to maybe 40 minutes in, and I just was like, if it wasn't a present for my mom, I would have walked out that cinema at the 40-minute mark. So another thing that did help to stay in the cinemas was it was my birthday, so I did have a few friends there and my brother.
Yeah.
So that did help get us through because we could actually talk and have some fun commentary.
And there was barely anyone in the except for like two girls like behind us, and I don't even think they were even watching.
Yeah. So look, watchability as a starting note, very low. And considering ticket prices for cinemas, if you really were wanting to put yourself through this film, I would say wait till it goes on stream.
Because it's not. I think it's coming out soon.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so now I think we'll get onto your point.
yes. So stuff we liked about the movie. So the thing I liked about the movie was, okay, you had a good actor, Bill Skarsgård. He's Pennywise. He's he's not just Pennywise. He's been in other roles, but like also like he's just I mean he's gonna be in Nosferatu this year, so I think his career's fine, and he's
Look, his performance, not necessarily the best, but all the actors in this film, their performances seem to be lacking. So I think it possibly,
especially the villain, like
I think
he's because like he was in like X-Men Origins and like Wonder Woman, and I'm like, and like this is the most phoned in performance from him.
So look, I would say for this one, I don't think it came down to the actor's ability to act. I think it came down to the scripts they were given.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the body language acting, it was the actual
delivery
of the dialogue.
Yeah.
But look, I think one thing to say is, does it look good?
It does, but like
it looks
like when they're in the forest with like friends and they're like like at a lake, I'm like, this looks like an indie film, like a I don't know, like a sort of like a coming of age story.
Looks wise, so looks wise, there are some
there's some good shots.
There are some good shots.
I love okay, this is gonna sound weird, but I kind of dig the violence in the movie. Yeah, that's fucked up to say, but like we need something like this.
So what amount of violence? What
at the end of the movie, the end of the movie where he's like killing all those guards who
look,
who probably didn't deserve it, and like I don't know, that was like the best part of the movie. Like it was just, that's when they truly locked in.
Yes, I will say I did enjoy, probably, if I'm being very lenient, the last 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Where they kind of actually get what the original was going for, but it is so late. It's like 3/3 in before anything actually picks up. So that's what I would say I enjoyed. I didn't mind some of the shots they used. Yeah, I mean the choreography towards the end was pretty funny and fun to watch.
Yeah, it was funny. Like with the opera music, I was like,
overall, there isn't actually a lot. And again, looks wise, there are a few things, but that's because they did have a lot of money to work with. That visually, things like that, it doesn't look like a shit film necessarily. But again, when you have a lot of money, being a decent visuals is, I find, not as much of a point to make it a good or bad film. That's only if they've managed to mess up the visuals so bad, which they haven't. But in this regards, I think there was a lot of other stuff that contributes to what made it just, again, boring. It was like poor boring. And then on the other side to it, just poor quality. Like its biggest thing is the fact that it's boring, and then under that there is just this underlining like bad quality in terms of writing and a few other things.
All right, so since we don't really have that many nice things to say about the movie, let's talk about the bad stuff. Wait, okay, I just gotta say,
you go first.
The first 30 minutes, like when they meet each other, when like Eric, who they just call Eric in the movie, they don't even say his fucking last name, which I'm like, fucking just why? What? Okay, whatever. And so I'm like we find out how Eric and Shelley meet, and I'm like, why? We don't even need to find out. Like it's just like and then they're in this like rehab center, or is it a prison? I don't know. I don't give a fuck.
With terrible security.
Yeah, the worst fucking security I've ever seen. I'm like, it cannot be that fucking easy. Oh yeah, and they get out with a fucking they cover some barbed wire with a jacket. I'm like, that how it works? I don't know. I've never really broken out of prison, so I wouldn't know.
Like,
they could have cut that out. Like,
Okay.
they could have just shown flashbacks or something like that. We didn't need to fucking know that.
Okay, my thing. Here it is. I felt like 9 times out of 10, the atmosphere was lacking. It felt very bland. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't.
what city were they even in? Because it didn't look like New York or Chicago.
I don't know if they're going
was
to.
it or Detroit? No, Detroit
the
was
original was Detroit.
Yeah.
Look, it felt very bland. There was a few shots where they got the atmosphere kind of nice, but a lot of times the atmosphere was not there. It felt like it was lacking. The villain is so bad.
It's like he just whispers in your ear, like.
It sounds like he smoked 50 cigarettes and then whispers in people's ears. Like,
yeah.
Look, the whole thing is meant to be that he made a deal with the devil or something like that.
Yeah,
he would send innocent souls to hell, but. Look, I think they could have used a villain, who worked with demons or like into the occult. Like, I think they could have done that really well.
Oh yeah, and they set up like this girl who's like playing the piano or something. You know who I'm talking about, right? Yeah, I was like, wait, why are we getting so much attention on her, and then we don't ever see her again?
Yeah, my thing is, could the villain have worked? Yes, but I think the way they went about it, it came off really stupid. And one of its biggest problems is it focuses on a lot of things. It introduces characters. It does a lot of these things that in film, for like filmography, I think it is. It sets up things. It tells you this is important. But then a lot of these like threads, they just ended up dropping in. It made it very confusing and pointless. They never followed through with almost like these promises they were saying. Like in the end, you don't feel like the bad guy's that bad. And like one of the biggest points that gets like Shelley killed is the fact she has this like video.
Yeah, which I'm like, how is that threatening that guy?
The funny thing is, in that video, it's like showing her she was like possessed or something and then kills some people in that video. If that video was released, the only person who probably would face most of the repercussions is Shelley herself.
Yeah, like how does that threaten Danny Houston's character?
Because we only ever find out this guy, I know, may deal with a devil or something through commentary from this random dude in this like semi like alternate you're not dead like purgatory
crow heaven, whatever the fuck.
No, it's purgatory. It's purgatory. It's not heaven, it's not hell, it's an in between state.
Yeah.
And he just makes like a comment, one line, like, oh, he sends innocents to hell and gets something from it. But we never know what he gets from it. We don't. All we know is this guy.
He just, I don't know.
All we know is this guy is going around whispering in people's ears, making them kill themselves.
Yeah.
Like.
And I'm sorry, like the death of, this is another fucked up thing to say, but the death of like Eric and Shelley, that was like kind of laughable.
Okay,
like,
yeah. So.
Like, yeah, I knew they weren't going to do like the SA stuff, like, yeah, that's understood, but like the body bag, the fucking bags like over them, I was like, I was kind of laughing.
I'll say this: the way they kill off the characters, the way it was shot made it very goofy.
Yeah.
So suffocation is a very slow thing to show. Now, another thing is when you are also putting that in a bag and things like that, it comes off very goofy. I think they could have definitely still gone for a suffocation death. However, when you are doing it in a certain way,
I feel like there could have been like a what's it called, like a ringing.
Yeah, there are ways to show that and still have the impact without making it look goofy. And I know it sounds like it's a very slow death on screen. Like how is that funny? It's because of the shots with the faces in the bag. It doesn't make it serious or the impact enough because you are showing something that looks a little strange on the screen. So I think the way that scene was shot, in the end, you're just finding it very goofy and it's not giving the impact it deserves. They needed to definitely, either if they wanted to go with that route, they needed to definitely do different shots, maybe a bit more sound effects.
Also, I just need to ask, how long were Eric and Shelley together? Because it looked like a few days. Like
that's
I think it should have been like a few months. Like or I don't know, just like to show growth. And because like when they get, I don't know, I just didn't really feel that connection. They just look like, as you said before, friends with benefits.
Yeah.
And like when they get back to the apartment, like, oh, I stink. Oh, you need a shower, and like they have a fucking bath. They're like, be fucking consistent.
There's the inconsistency in the dialogue often, like, not.
I mean, it's not a big deal, but
there's the inconsistency of what happens with the versus dialogue and things is quite common. Another thing going on the sort of pacing of the film, which is what comes down to the fact that they feel like, as I said after watching it, it felt like they were friends with benefits.
Yeah.
It did not feel like they were like fully in love. Like, this was a romance. This was like an actual like Romeo and Juliet, like love each other till we die,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That came down to the fact of pacing. You know, they seem to focus, which is strange. They seem to focus majority of the film on this romance. However, they don't seem to be able to portray how long it is. It feels
And
like
also, like,
it's,
I just got to get this out. Sorry to interrupt, but like, wouldn't they be tracked down if they escape fucking prison? Like, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the whatever that was, rehab prison, whatever the fuck. Like, I'm pretty sure like they would not be like, oh, they escaped. No, forget it. Like, yeah, I was like,
there was. I will say another thing that didn't help. There was a severe lack of consequences, I think, is the best way to say it. You know, there weren't a lot of cops around, even though a lot of people were dying and there was like evidence all over the place. There wasn't really a presence of security when they leave, or like consequences of these actions didn't necessarily feel like they played out. The only real consequences was the fact that the bad guys were after them.
Yeah.
But yet they're in this city, there are cops, there are all these things going on, which I think didn't necessarily help. It made their actions feel very like strange, like lacking. Like it was lacking the consequence and tension you needed to be interested in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find it strange they dedicated so much to the romance, which never paid off. It just didn't pay off. The pacing was all over the place, and that's the thing. Another contention I have is the fact that there is presence of drugs and drug use. However,
I didn't really get that vibe.
The presence of it, you didn't necessarily see the impact. It didn't. You couldn't necessarily. The impact didn't look like they actually had taken anything.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day made it feel very pointless. And at least, if you have the presence of drugs, right, there has to be a sort of meaning to it. Yeah, it's meant to be maybe showing that, oh, they were in rehab, but they haven't rehabilitated or something. But it didn't feel like that. All the drug use was very pointless. Like it felt very unnecessary. I find if you are going to have substances in your film, it should show that the behaviors are changing, or show that they are under the influence. It did not feel like that.
Yeah.
And I think you could have just gotten rid of that. Maybe had like one shot or two shot to show how they got into rehab. But if you're not going to actually play, actually like showing like how this is affecting the situation, how it's affecting the mood, things like that, which I didn't do. It's unnecessary, and it was just a bit.
Another thing I wanted to like bring up was like, what the fuck was the deal with like that guy in Crow, Hell, Heaven, Purgatory, or she said it's Purgatory, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was the deal with that guy? Because like, and then like at the end of the movie, spoilers. Well, I mean, we've already talked spoilers. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we've already fucking talked spoilers. Yeah. Also, like he turned out to be like just an EMT or whatever the fuck. Like I was like, wait, what?
Okay,
that made no sense. You could have had it.
Yeah.
Like,
so
and the Crow, like. Yeah, he was in a few, like as in the bird crow, like he was in a few shots. Yeah, but like,
yeah. So I'll say this, like, it'll make more sense once we get into the comparison side of things. But
I'll be back.
There was this guy who was in it. Like, I didn't mind necessarily the idea they went for the purgatory, like feeling of this like universe, like alternate sort of state. But they had this random guy who, I don't know whether they wanted him to be God or something, but he was meant to be like giving dialogue and like, oh, this is what you got to do. Here's your mission, things like that. And in the end, they made him into like the first responder, like a paramedic and stuff like that, which was really weird. Another thing is the ending is very strange. It makes the whole film feel pointless, because even though it's like meant to be that things happened, but it starts with where they died and it turns out they didn't die. So timing and things going on doesn't line up. There's a lot of plot holes and pointless characters. They get introduced, dropped. There's just a lot wrong with the writing in general. Like, yeah, it's all over the place. And I think I think what doesn't help is the film doesn't know its audience. Like my brother made a good point of the film takes itself too seriously. And I don't. It's because the film's definitely not for the fans of the comics. It's definitely not for fans of the 1994 film. So if it is trying to captivate a new audience, it does a very poor job of that.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a lot of people saying that, like, who is the film for? Because most of the people it's trying to target, it's not hitting. And
Yeah.
I think that doesn't it fails the film a lot. Like it doesn't know who its audience is. And the first thing you do is knowing your audience helps you then tailor the film and stuff like that, which they didn't have. And that's what helped with this weird lack of direction. And a very almost like empty world. A very just
Yeah. What else was there? Like, so some other funny things that I found was like, where they're like in that apartment, and, like, those like guys with like breaking in, and like where they shoot that guy, Eric's friend, or what is his friend? I don't know, it was the bald guy.
yeah.
And when they're fighting Eric and they take his shirt off, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, there were some very goofy scenes, also very cringy lines, like almost borderline Twilight lines.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, like the cry now, something like
Cry
that.
now, cry. Oh, yeah.
Things like that, where they are very cringy lines, or like it mainly had to do with like the relationship and lines. So say like, if I jump, will you jump too? Things like that. They were very much lines you would see in almost that Twilight genre.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I will say though, the last 30 minutes wasn't too bad. It was actually watchable.
There was a
little bit in a funny way because some of the things were a bit
like
stupid.
where it's like at the where it's with Danny Houston, like where they're like, I felt so much sexual tension. I'm like, what the fuck? Like you're stabbing him in the nipple, like, dude, fucking kiss already.
So when the conflict, like almost the final confrontation between Eric and the villain, there is this weird just way they've shot it, the lighting, like, and there is more sexual tension in that almost like maybe 5 minutes than there is in the entire actual like sex scenes, which are very little.
Yeah.
So that was funny. Like they clearly, how do they make the sexual tension in this shot, which is really strange?
Yeah, exactly.
When one guy's getting stabbed versus
in the fucking nipple. I'm like, what?
Versus that whole other time you were focusing on.
And then they like fall together like on the ground. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, whoa. It's very strange. But I will say that 30 minutes is like the only watchable thing, and it's actually quite funny. But apart from that, it's just, as you can see from like different points bring up, and it's a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot. And the worst thing is, I can see it having potential, but for whatever reason, the people they got involved, whether or not they wanted to play it extremely safe, or they weren't actually willing to go out and actually like go for it, I think made the film very lackluster.
Yeah,
overall. So I think that's.
There's some other points. What other points were there that we had?
I will.
Oh yeah, did anyone else notice? Did Eric or Bill Skarsgård get bigger? Like when he was in that bathtub, did anyone else notice like he got like bigger? I was like,
okay, so there is a scene.
When they take this shirt off, I was like,
there is a scene where he's meant to die and he has to go back to the guy in the purgatory world, and he's like, I'll do anything, give me a second chance. And the other guy's like, fine, I'll give you a second chance, but there's no going back. And then they exchange blood, and then he suddenly gets a little bit more jacked.
Yeah,
it's just a bit like he looked fine.
Yeah, he was fine.
Like, he was on the skinnier side, but he looked fine. He looked like he could still like.
And also, the haircut just did not help. I don't know.
Look,
just wasn't a fan.
This is what I was gonna say. It's the aesthetic and the build around the film. They clearly, you can see from like some of the shots and the costumes they did go for. they had that almost like they want to go for either a cyber or like industrial feel. I think they should have played into that, especially like industrial golf or like cyber golf. I think they should really have actually played into that hardcore because like the designing, the costuming, the actual aesthetic, the colors, because they have similar colors, right? In certain scenes, like blues and greens. But I think because the atmosphere was lacking and the direction and the feel of the whole film was lacking, like a lot of the costumes are pretty boring.
I mean, he looked really cool in that jacket.
Yeah, but I think it would have been really cool to actually see them go for it in that sort of like feel and that direction, because it would have at least given more of a grounding atmosphere and made it cool. But they didn't really play into that, and then that's where like
they could have cut so much.
I found the haircut. I mean, if everything else is fine, I think I could have.
I really wish that like when he dies and he comes back, I wish he had longer hair, but I was like, okay, they didn't do that. Okay.
And another thing is the tattoos. I know the thing is they look really trashy, and I feel like they have no purpose. They just make him look not that great. They don't even compliment his look. They're not even good tattoos. They're like these really trashy.
Oh yeah, it's over the top.
It's like, again, if other things were done well, you could easily look over those two things, the haircut and the tattoos. But again, I don't mind if he had tattoos, but I think the tattoo patterns they went for, the tattoos they went for, just don't compliment anything. They just make him look like he just walked straight out of prison and not in a good way.
I mean, he kind of did, but like,
yeah, but no, like, like, no, it's
all right.
All right, maybe let's talk about
the original and what they were missing in this one,
or like what they did good in that original one.
And,
what we think, like maybe there was a few things that could do better. But then overall, how it compares to this new one. Again, we understand it is a reboot, not a remake. However, you are working with a similar story, similar character, and when you're re-envisioning that, when you've done it so poorly, how did that happen when you have such material you already have that exists to work with, like, you know, from comics into like the other films and all the other media they actually had before this film?
So the thing I think, first of all, why didn't they have the cat? I'm kidding. Like, Gabriel, I was like, who the fuck was feeding you for like a year? And also, by the way, one more thing. I feel like it was a way too like in the new one, he was dead for like just a day or so, or a night, just a few hours, I think.
No, that comes in comparison.
Yeah. So, okay. So like, all right, in the original, he's been dead for like a year. And so
he's buried,
buried, and
he has a tombstone.
So it comes like as a shock to people, like
when he's
like
alive.
The girl, like forgot her name, but like
I think Sarah or something.
Yeah, where was she in the movie? She wasn't in the movie.
Well, again, also, what I like about the original, my biggest critiques on what the original kind of was lacking had to do with maybe what the time it was shot, right? There are just a few shots which they just haven't aged well in terms of special effects and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the lines are a bit cringy here and there, but at least overall it knows what it wants. But yeah, my biggest thing with the previous one is just some of the shots I feel like if you were to redo them now could have been done a little bit better. But again, that's an age thing, not necessarily a direction sort of thing. But yeah, like what I like about the original is it also has a lot of more presence of characters. Like you're not just following Eric Draven, you're following a few other characters and their interactions, and you're seeing everyone being like, "Oh, you were dead. Why are you back?" And you actually see that sort of like shock in people's faces.
Yeah.
I also enjoy how in that one it starts off knowing exactly what it wants to do. Right, it starts off with the main focus is Eric Draven is going on a path of avenging his girlfriend's death.
Yeah.
Well, her sexual assault and her death.
Yeah.
So it knows what it wants, and I think the fact it also hasn't got this weird guy telling him what to do, like he knows what to do.
Yeah.
He has the assistance of the Crow, and through that, he is able to slowly pick off these gang members one by one. And at least for that, the way they die and that sort of thing is very interesting. And the building of fear, but you also have the presence of there are consequences of his actions. It's not just the gang members after him; it's also the police in the city are after him, right? And I also like how there's multiple stories. You know, you're focusing on one. There's this girl who Eric and Shelley looked after for a bit. You know, you see her story, and then you also see how there's one cop who was at the scene and the scene of their death, and how
like in the new one, like where there was that cop, and I was like, oh, is he gonna be like the replacement? The like I was like, and when he shoots on, I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
yeah, but having the cop who is trying to figure out what's going on and following the case, and he's also like finding he's getting consequences, like he's being told don't do this, da 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 da.
Yeah.
I think having those helps build the world.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that most of it is set at night is nice. You know, it sets an atmosphere. It knows its atmosphere. There are still shots that are done during the day, but you know, and the fact that it's showing that it's like, you know, always raining. It's like showing how this place has gone to the dumps. Like, it's not a great place to live. You see that consequences. You know, that sort of atmosphere is there. That the gang in this city, they definitely hold the power.
Yeah.
It again, even the world itself, it has a lot more story to it. The fact that there's this thing called Devil's Night, and that it shows like the gang's influence. And another thing I did pick up is, even though I don't mind some of the music in the new one, because there are a few bands I know,
they were pretty forgettable.
But the thing I will say about the new one is, when it tries to put music in, especially music with like lyrics and stuff, it does this thing of abruptly cutting it off. It is poorly mixed into the film. With the original, you have a good mix of its like actually sounds in the film from like bands playing at these like raves, versus like, you know, like I especially love the scene when one of the Cure songs plays, you know, where he's like putting on the makeup and stuff like that. Like it feels like its character has depth, and the music complements the scenery. It complements what's going on.
Almost like the music is a character of its own.
Yeah,
but
and
just like the city is a character.
It helps with atmosphere, whereas in the new one, not so much. It was just poorly put in.
Yeah.
What's another thing I do like? I look, the death of the villain in the 1994 one is a little strange. You know, like suddenly he transfers all these memories into the guy's head, and the guy then like is like and dies. So, yeah, that's a little strange. But overall, it does a lot that is good, and you could see sort of like at least the actors enjoying themselves for the most part. You can sort of see the passion in the film, and it makes it enjoyable, even though like some things are a little cringy or haven't aged the best. It still is a good watch. I can understand it is sometimes a bit hard to get through, but overall, like it is a cult film for a reason, and I definitely enjoy it. It's a good watch. The costuming is so much better.
Oh yeah, so much.
Like better. even these random gang members have at least like thought out costumes and that sort of thing. Another thing I will say is, you feel the impact of any of the drug use, and when the drugs are present, you do feel the impact of those, which I think it knows it's there, and it has it there for a reason, and I mean, you know, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And yeah, like also just what else is there? What was I gonna mention? Yeah, the fight choreography in the original, it wasn't that bad. Well, I thought it was good.
Yeah, and look, I think you can definitely see with Brandon Lee his performance, and I think for choreography it does help that he has martial arts.
Yeah, he has
martial arts backgrounds and that sort of thing. And you know, there's this. That's another thing. Brandon Lee brought this like charisma to the character that these emotions were lacking in the new one.
Yeah,
this sort of like feel,
and also like because my problem with the new one is they showed just too much of like of Eric and Shelley, because like I think less is more, and
Yeah,
they showed
because
too much.
in
of
the
it.
1994 one, they show the relationship in the background,
Yeah,
like flashbacks and these sort of things
flashbacks,
through
and, like,
through items that trigger memories and things like
yeah,
that. Another thing I think that makes the more impact is the fact
they were
that
gonna get married.
they were
Yeah.
engaged
Oh yeah.
and they were killed the night before their wedding. So the characters in the new one didn't necessarily have to be engaged or getting married or something like that, but there needed to be something more to cement the relationship in one way or another. And that the new one didn't have that. It didn't have these sort of key moments, these key memories to show like these two people really cared about each other, you know.
Mm.
And again, you didn't necessarily need them to be engaged or getting married to do that.
Yeah.
But it didn't do it in any capacity.
Mhm.
And I think the fact that, you know, this one, it also has a nice conclusion. The fact that Eric Draven is there for his revenge. And when it's all done, it's over. It
Yeah.
has a nice conclusion. You know, he came back for a mission. His mission is complete. He can now rest in peace and be with Shelley. You know, things like that has a conclusion. It has, overall, it's an enjoyable watch. And I think at the end of the day, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
It is an enjoyable watch.
It's a movie to watch at nighttime, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, it's the whole thing set at night. It's like, I don't know.
It has that, yeah. But the new one, that's what my biggest thing is. At the end of the day, the new one is just not watchable.
Yeah.
It's not even enjoyable. There's nothing to it that you could really sit through again.
The fight scene, like the last 30 or 20 minutes, maybe, but I'm also just not gonna, like, I don't know.
Like, and again, what I think is frustrating is the fact that there was opportunity. You know, you have so many resources behind you you could work with and really bring a good movie, a good reboot to a new audience, right? And get people to go see the original or even fall into the comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
because most people don't even know that, like, The Crow is a comic.
Yeah, but I found it, whether it was out of we want to play it safe or just like, no, we have to do something completely different, it was an unfortunate miss of opportunity. And at the end of the day, I could say is you could take away the crows from this film.
Yeah, like, they could have made,
cut out a few scenes, and you got to. It could have been a film without the crow.
Yeah, it could have just been like an ordinary supernatural,
or maybe like just an ordinary sort of like revenge kind of thing.
Hold on. Were there any promos at the theater for it?
I don't know.
I don't really remember seeing much marketing for it.
I can say I don't know because whenever we went to the cinemas, there hasn't been much out during that time of them playing the trailers. So if you went into a film to see some of the trailers in a film, I don't know if they played any. I would say most of it was definitely online.
Yeah.
But even then, at least
some of the marketing was
least
weird.
I would say, at least in our area, from being out and actually exposure, most of the exposure I saw was either posters on buses, train stations, things like that, or on social media through like posts that you could easily like skip past. So at least in our area, that was the most promotion it got.
No, I didn't see any.
And it was never going to get that much because they've already got huge films that are going to overlap that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not necessarily it's lack of success.
Yeah, they could have made like a crow bucket or something like.
Yeah, look, even from the start, its success was not going to be huge.
No.
A lot of
there was a lot going up against this, which
look. And I think that shows with its payout.
Because like at first, like when people were going up against it, I just thought like, it was just biased for the '94 movie, and just
Look, coming out of it with I avoided as much as possible, so I didn't see as much of the good bad. But coming out of it, it's just not a watchable film.
Yeah.
And again, it's not all because it's terrible, terrible, terrible. Or no, it's down to poor writing, some lackluster acting, some of the cinematography, and just overall, just making it really boring.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Which again, as I say, it's a shame because there were a lot of potential to have a decent film that brings new audiences and draws them into like some of the other products of this character. But whoever was behind the scenes, the people that got to make this film, for whatever reason, the direction they wanted to go with was this, and it didn't pay out.
no, it didn't pay out at
Which
all.
again, I think is a shame, and because I think there are some things where it's like there's a time and a place for a reboot or a remake.
We're probably not going to get another like reboot in like 10 years or so. Because
Look, I don't think.
and hell, since like Eric Draven isn't the only Crow, they could have done like another Crow.
Yeah,
right?
because there are a few versions of the Crow.
Yeah, so if we get another like reboot, maybe make it someone else, not Eric Draven.
Look, I can say, considering how long it took for this one to be made,
Yeah,
I highly doubt, especially from the failure this was, I don't think they're going to, at least in a movie format.
I mean, we are getting another Hellboy movie like in a month or so, and like it's only like 5 years since that.
But I'll say, at least in terms of a movie format, I don't think we're going to get anything anytime soon.
Yeah,
They possibly might do a different sort of media, possibly, but
a video game would be cool.
Video game, or even like a series, a short series or something, possibly, because they are a lot easier to do.
And they've haven't they made like a Crow TV show before?
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
I have a few of the seasons.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just sad. It's just like,
yeah. What could have been?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the first film I've had these sort of feelings for.
Oh yeah,
and that sort of thing, but.
Well, this Crow line hasn't changed, and it's coming back to the theaters. Maybe the Crow need to come back to theaters. Oh yeah, I think they did like
So they do reruns.
Yeah, because it was the anniversary and.
So sometimes you get.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so sometimes they do reruns. I mean, if they do ever put the 1994 one on a rerun, I would definitely want to go see it on the big screen. I think it definitely would be really cool to see on the big screen. But a lot of those cult films that they do reruns for, it just depends on what the cinema wants to play and what year. Sometimes if maybe the best time to do it would be around Halloween. Even though Halloween's not really big over here in Australia, they could still put it on as a cool sort of like theme for people to go see.
Yeah.
And get people
into the cinemas. Married on Halloween. Yeah.
No. But yeah, I don't know really what else to say. What would you rate it out of 10? So what would you rate the original out of 10, and what would you rate the new one out of 10?
Okay, the original, I'd rate that at like 7 out of 10.
For me personally,
either 7 or 6 out of 10. It's not like a perfect movie.
Yeah, no, I would say probably 7.5. Again, maybe an 8 because of how much I enjoy it, but 7.5. It still has some things that don't make an epic film. But what about the new one?
I don't know. Probably like it.
Okay,
fuck this movie.
I would say personally a 2 or a 1 for most of the film, but a 3 for the final 30 minutes.
Yeah,
that's it. Like I couldn't put it higher than a 3. A 3, I couldn't. Again, yeah.
I don't know if I would really. I don't really know.
But again, the whole film is on a 3. No.
The whole movie.
Most of the film would be a 1 to a 2. and then that final sort of like a fight scene, and then the villain would be like a 3. But I
Yeah.
couldn't put it any higher than a 3. The 3 is still generous in my opinion.
Having a 3, you're being too nice to it. Fuck this movie. It's so bad.
Yeah, I know.
Holy
I know it's
shit.
low. I know it's low, but the problem is that again, I know I've seen some reviews of people not minding it, and again, that could come down to other films you watch, your preference in a movie. Because again, it doesn't look bad. Like its aesthetic is still watchable.
Yeah.
However, I find everything else
Is
that goes
it though?
on
Is it watchable?
visually. Like if you turned all the sound off and you just looked at the visuals are fine, right?
Yeah.
And again, comparing on
What if you just turn the movie off? I think the visuals will
look, I can understand how some people are like, I don't mind it. Again, because it depends on what films you've seen, what you like in a film, and things like that. But personally, from films I've seen from other, like the potential and the stuff like that, that's why, at least in my opinion, I put it so low. But I can see how someone else might enjoy it a little more. But it's not something I would recommend, because I think most people who go see it will find it hard to watch, or who would be like, this is a bad film, like this is not the best film. So again, I wouldn't recommend you go see it. But if you end up seeing it,
if you want to torture yourself, then go ahead.
If you end up seeing it and you enjoy it, well,
good on you.
But
I guess.
Again, it's just because opinions are formed by different experiences and different films you enjoy. But again, if you ask, is it worth watching
in a theater?
No,
absolutely fucking not. No, I've never wanted to walk out of a movie than this one. Oh fuck! I was just, god fucking damn! It was this was me.
Pack your things. We're leaving.
That was me the entire time, and I wanted to absolutely fucking.
No, but anyway, I look, if someone's out there who enjoyed it, lucky you. But
and this was us when watching the original.
I tell you what, though, folks, that's bloody nice. That is really. That is bloody lovely.
Yeah, that's.
Look, I will say, when we were watching the original, the one thing that was good that came out of the watching, or at least watching the new one, was the fact we wanted to go back and watch the original so bad.
Yeah.
It made, like, I think if someone watched this, and if it was so bad that it pushed them to want to see what the original one was, I think that's one thing good. If it's so bad that it pushes you to be like, well, what was the original one like?
Yeah.
That's, I think, maybe one good thing out of it. But
yeah.
Right now, it's just like, we're just saying things for saying things. So.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh god. That was yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
Well, yeah. I think we've covered most things. I know it's a bit all over the place, but that's how your brain works. Thought patterns work. They're not,
I'm sure I've seen someone who likes this movie. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've seen maybe 1 or 2 reviews. No, I haven't seen any of people saying, oh my goodness, it's so good. The closest I've gotten is people like, I didn't mind it. Things like that. I've never seen one that say, oh, it's awesome. But most of the ones that I would say who quote unquote like it, it's more like, I don't mind it. I wouldn't necessarily go watch it again, but I could watch it, and I had an okay time. That's the closest I've seen to a like. But yeah, I haven't seen anyone who wants to rave about it or is like, oh yes, 10 out of 10.
And I don't see it as being one of those movies that will become a cult classic in like 10 years or something. Like, no.
Not even for how bad it is, because again,
it's not even bad. It's not even funny bad. It's just fucking like, just, like, what the fuck is this?
It's not bad, but it's just boring. And boring films die. Bad films can become funny, but boring films die.
Yeah.
But again, majority of the reviews are against it, and for obvious reasons. Most of the ones I've read, at least, do point out why they give such a low rating. But again, there is a small percentage of people said it was okay, but no one I've never seen any who say it's epic.
And I'm not saying that anyone hasn't said that it's awesome. It's just me. I have not seen anyone say. Was it
No,
at least
no.
good? So bad? No, hell
No, as we said,
No.
it's not necessarily bad. It's more so the
it is
fact
bad. Yeah.
it's boring, and then that's the thing. Bad films can become funny. Bad films can be entertaining. This was not entertaining. This was boring, and it was hard to watch because of how boring it is. So I wish it was kind of like so bad in a good way, because at least then I could have had an enjoyable time. The only thing I could say was enjoyable, we said before, was that last 30 minutes. And that's because it really hands into that goofy sort of over the top,
Yeah.
like flashing a bunch of people. That it was funny. That was like
Yeah.
that was what I would say it was a bit bad, but it was funny.
Yeah.
But again, you got to go through the other two-thirds of the film to get there.
If it was under a different name, would it be better?
No,
Maybe. I don't know.
I
I don't know. Honestly.
don't think so, because I still think if people went to see it, right, if we took The Crow out of it,
Yeah.
it would still
The Bird.
It would still suffer from poor writing and direction. That would still make it boring.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of this, even if we took The Crow out of it, because to be truthful, The Crow's not actually in it that much.
Yeah.
To be truthful,
I came to watch a movie called The Crow, not
so
fucking
even if we
rehab
took that
shit.
out of it, I think it would still suffer from being a boring film. But I think what would change if we took The Crow out of it would be the criticisms, and possibly how harsh people criticize it, right?
Yeah.
Because of the nostalgia from the 1994 one, I think people are more harsh with their criticisms.
Oh yeah,
you
because they have a bias.
you
and
have
stuff.
and you have something to compare it to. But if we took that away, I think the criticism wouldn't be as harsh, but I still don't think it would be a success. I still think it would get a lot of negative reviews because at its core, it is a boring film.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if anything, it probably wouldn't have gotten as much attention. Like the fact it had the Crow name to it maybe gave it more attention. I think even if it didn't have that, I think it would be truly swept under the rug and forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
High expectations.
Yeah, high expectations. Yeah.
I mean, in my thing, I didn't have high expectations, but again, because I knew the history of how long this film took to actually get made, so I didn't.
And there was a lookalike in the movie where there was a guy that looked like Jason Momoa. When he walked past him, I was like, "What the fuck was that, Jason Momoa?" No, it probably was not. So,
but yeah,
and also if Jason Momoa was the Crow, that probably would have not have him play like Lobo in the DCU. So
no, but look, I went in with not really high expectations. I went in as neutral as possible.
I was rooting for this movie to like succeed because like I didn't want like those biased like nostalgia critics, not the YouTuber, fuck, like those nostalgia fuckwits like saying, "Oh, the original is better. Brandon Lee's the only Crow," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And just like I wanted this movie to succeed, and I was wrong, and I don't like being proven wrong, and so bad.
No, but I kept mine as neutral as possible. It's like I just want to go in, and my only thing was I want at least decent music because I enjoy the soundtrack of the original, and a watchable film. I got some okay music. I don't mind some of the songs in there. Was it?
I really cannot remember a single song.
I'm bad with song names, but I can remember them because I listened to some of the bands.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I got the decent music. Was it mixed into the film? Right?
No.
But overall, I got an unwatchable film, at least for me. Again, so that's where I was disappointed. My expectations were not high.
Yeah.
But my minimal criteria was not met. Yeah.
So what do you think's worse? Now, what do you think's worse? The Crow 2024 or Madam Web? Because I haven't seen Madam Web. Which people in the chat, which is worse? Madam Web or The Crow?
With music, you asked with music. So I know some of the songs they weren't necessarily new bands. I mean, possibly the end credits song they made specifically for the movie. But I think one of the bands was She Wants Revenge. They've been around for a little while.
In the new one? Was this in the new one?
Yeah, in the movie. Again, because in the original you have bands like The Crow and a few
You mean The Cure?
The Cure, sorry.
Yeah, The Crow.
The two C's, ignore me, I'm dyslexic. But in the original, you have like The Cure, you have a few like actual like gothic bands from like the 90s and stuff. In this one, you don't necessarily, I don't think you get, there possibly were some artists that were more new, but most of them were like, I think like early 2000s is when they established themselves. So not necessarily new, but it was, again, the music still fit the sort of, almost the goth sort of vibe, but it was a bit more the sort of tech goth or 2000s. So it had that sort of sound, but instead of like the 90s and 80s sort of feel. Also, this one was more again that tech kind of vibe.
I didn't really get the tech vibe.
In the music though, in the structure of it.
No, yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm not in music.
Well, like the synth sounds and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Whereas in the original, it was more like a punk feel. It was very more like raspy or like disjointed compared to this one. But look, would I listen to the soundtrack? Yeah, I would listen to the soundtrack of the movie 100%, at least for me.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that movie tainted that soundtrack.
I don't mind music. I can take away. I can often separate the music from a terrible film. But if you haven't seen either, I would say see the 1994 one.
I think oh no, because like I was asking what's worse, The Crow or Madam Web?
Oh, look, I would go. I think I would rather sit through The Crow again than Madam Web. Now, my reasoning for this is Madam Web at times actually visually looks like shit.
No, there's some good shots, but that's it pretty much.
Also, I think I could at least close my eyes and just listen to the Crow. I could get.
I don't even want to think
listening to
about
it.
why did I? Fuck man, why did I bring up the fucking Madam Web? Oh my god. Okay, so overall, yeah, guys, go watch The Crow. No, I'm kidding.
Go watch the 1994 one if you haven't seen it. And if you really have the urge to see this new one,
if you want to torture yourself,
I will say wait until it's out of cinemas.
Yeah.
Save your money. Wait until it's out of cinemas. And if you enjoy it, lucky bastard. But unfortunately,
you have some taste if you enjoy
unfortunately, that wasn't the case for us.
Yeah.
I wish it was. I really wish it
was.
But
yeah, like we don't hope this movie is gonna be bad, but like let's just know how it turned out to be.
It's an understanding. We didn't want it to fail. We really wanted something good, but we didn't get that.
Yeah. So yeah. So thanks everyone for watching, and yeah, we'll try and do like a stream sometime. Like
we'll see. Maybe after we watch Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah,
we'll have to. We'll probably see the new one, and then we'll watch the original one.
Yeah, it depends if it's bad. We'll go back and watch the original one.
Or even just we would watch the original one because even that.
Yeah.
Because but unlike that, that one's like the prequel, like sequel, whatever, like 1 and 2. Like they're meant to be after each other. So we would probably like see how that goes. But I think that would be fun to do. Just. You know.
Yes.
I mean, Tim Burton, man. It's a little tangent here. Tim Burton has not done some good films lately. I really
he it's almost like it was revealed recently that he almost retired after
Dumbo.
Yeah, Dumbo.
Yeah, he hasn't done good stuff recently, at least that ones I haven't enjoyed. So if he pulls out a film that is actually enjoyable by him in this most recent years, I will say that'll be fun to see some good work from him again. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Thanks people in the chat, and we'll see you guys next time. Yeah.